The conflict in Ukraine, now grinding relentlessly into its later stages, has evolved into a brutal war of attrition. On the ground, vast trench networks and artillery barrages echo the grim realities of past European wars. Above this scarred landscape, a critical battle is being waged: control of the skies. From the earliest days, air power has been decisive. Russia sought air supremacy to cripple Ukrainian command and control and clear the way for ground forces. Ukraine, against all odds, denied them this, its depleted but determined air force mounting a spirited defense. That continues to this day, shaping the very nature of the war. Control of the air, or even contesting it, dictates what happens below. It allows for deep strikes against enemy logistics, command posts, ammunition depots disrupting the flow of men and material to the front line. It provides crucial close air support for advancing troops suppressing enemy positions, breaking through fortified lines. For Ukraine, a stronger foothold in the air would mean protecting its cities from missile attacks, protecting its cities from drone attacks, and pushing back against Russian ground forces more effectively. The struggle for air superiority is not just a sideshow, it is central to the ultimate outcome of this war. The story of the air war has been one of constant adaptation. Ukraine has masterfully integrated Western-supplied air defense systems, creating a formidable protective shield, making Russian air operations over friendly territory incredibly risky. In response, Russia has resorted to standoff attacks, launching cruise missiles, glide bombs from within the relative safety of its own airspace. This has created a deadly stalemate where neither side can operate freely. To break this impasse, Ukraine needs more than just defensive systems, it needs offensive air capabilities, modern fighter jets that can challenge Russian aircraft and strike deep behind their lines. The JAS-39 Gripen, which translates to Griffin in English, is the cornerstone of the Swedish Air Force. It's a product of Sweden's long-standing policy of military neutrality and self-reliance, developed by the aerospace company Saab. The Gripen was conceived during the Cold War with a very specific set of requirements in mind. It needed to be a multi-role platform: fighter, attack, reconnaissance. More importantly, it had to be capable of operating in the harsh conditions of a potential conflict with a superpower, meaning it had to be rugged, easy to maintain, and able to fly from dispersed, unconventional locations like fortified roadways and short, damaged airstrips. This design philosophy sets the Gripen apart from many of its contemporaries. It is a lightweight, single-engine fighter, renowned for its exceptional agility and advanced electronic warfare capabilities. Its delta wing and canard configuration provide superb aerodynamic performance, allowing it to outmaneuver many larger, more powerful adversaries in a dogfight. But its real strength lies in its brain, not just its brawn. The Gripen is essentially a flying supercomputer, designed around a concept known as net-centric warfare. It features a sophisticated data link system that allows a squadron of Gripens to share sensor data in real time, creating a comprehensive shared picture of the entire battle space for every pilot. This emphasis on information dominance and operational flexibility makes the Gripen a formidable system. A single Gripen can detect a threat and silently transfer that targeting data to another jet, which can then launch a missile without ever turning on its own radar, a tactic known as silent attack. This ability to operate cooperatively and stealthily is a huge advantage. Furthermore, the Gripen was built with cost-effectiveness and ease of support in mind. Its maintenance needs are significantly lower than many other fourth-generation fighters. It can be refueled, rearmed, and sent back into the air by a small ground crew in a matter of minutes, a rapid turnaround. The Gripen has earned a reputation as a smart fighter, an underdog that punches well above its weight class. It is operated by Sweden, the Czech Republic, Hungary, South Africa, Thailand, and Brazil. All of these nations value its combination of high performance and manageable operational costs. It is a proven, reliable platform that embodies a different way of thinking about air power, one less focused on raw power and more on intelligence, efficiency, and adaptability. These are the very qualities that make its potential deployment to Ukraine a subject of such intense interest and, for Russia, significant apprehension. The conversation about sending Gripen jets to Ukraine did not begin with a grand political announcement. Instead, it started as a low murmur among defense analysts and military enthusiasts in early 2023. As Ukraine's plea for modern Western fighters grew louder, the focus was initially on the ubiquitous F-16, but experts soon highlighted the unique suitability of the Gripen, its ability to operate from rough runways and short runways. That mattered because airbases were under constant threat of Russian missile strikes. Ukraine began to disperse assets across the country, even using highways. Throughout 2023 and 2024, the whispers became a formal discussion. Ukrainian pilots started evaluations. Technicians joined training. Preliminary evaluations and training took place in Sweden. It signaled Stockholm was seriously exploring the possibility, without committing yet. The Swedish government navigated a delicate political path. A nation that had just shed neutrality to join NATO wanted to show commitment to European security. Sending Gripens would be a powerful statement, but Sweden had to balance its own defense needs and consider potential Russian retaliation in the Baltic. The turning point came mid-2025. Initial F-16 deliveries from a NATO coalition helped set up logistics and training pipelines. That shift made transfers feel feasible and manageable. Suddenly, arguments for the Gripen looked far more compelling. Sweden completed internal analyses and began issuing concrete statements. Officials confirmed plans to transfer a squadron, Gripen C, Gripen D. The transfer would be contingent on Ukrainian pilot training completion and the establishment of support infrastructure. This gradual progression let all parties prepare. Ukraine readied personnel for a new advanced system. Sweden balanced its security with support for Kiev, and Russia watched a new, troublesome threat slowly materialize. The saga is more than hardware. It's shifting geopolitics and a slow, determined Western response. From the perspective of the Russian General Staff, the potential arrival of the Gripen in Ukrainian hands represents a uniquely vexing problem. It is not about the sheer number of jets. The initial transfer will likely be a relatively small squadron. Instead, Russian fears are rooted in the specific capabilities of the Gripen and how they directly counter the strengths and exploit the weaknesses of Russia's own air and air defense forces. The Kremlin's military strategy in Ukraine has come to rely heavily on two pillars: long-range standoff missile attacks, the use of its extensive ground-based air defense systems, like the S-400, to create no-go zones for the Ukrainian Air Force. The Gripen threatens both of these pillars. Firstly, the Gripen's electronic warfare suite is considered to be world-class, arguably one of the most sophisticated on any fourth-generation fighter. Russian military doctrine places a heavy emphasis on powerful ground-based radar systems to detect and track enemy aircraft. The Gripen is designed specifically to disrupt and deceive such systems. It can jam enemy radar, create false targets, and use its own advanced sensors to find and target these systems without giving away its own position. This smart survivability, relying on electronic countermeasures rather than just speed or stealth, poses a direct threat to the expensive and supposedly impregnable S-400, S-300 systems that Russia uses to control Ukrainian airspace. Secondly, the Gripen's operational model of dispersed, low-maintenance operations is a nightmare for Russian targeting. Russia has expended a significant number of valuable long-range missiles attempting to destroy Ukrainian aircraft on the ground at their known airbases. The Gripen, however, is designed to avoid this very problem. A small team of conscripts can service and rearm a Gripen on a stretch of motorway in under 10 minutes. This means the jets will be constantly on the move, never presenting a static, predictable target. For Russian military planners, the task of hunting down and destroying these elusive fighters on the ground becomes exponentially more difficult and costly. Finally, there is the weapon system itself. The Gripen is a highly effective platform for delivering advanced Western munitions. In particular, its compatibility with the long-range Meteor air-to-air missile is a source of major concern for Moscow. The Meteor, widely regarded as the most capable missile of its kind, outranges anything currently in the Russian inventory, including the R-77M. A Gripen armed with Meteors could engage and destroy high-value Russian assets like Sukhoi Su-34 bombers or Su-35 fighters from well beyond the range at which the Russian jets could fight back. This would force Russian pilots to operate much more cautiously, ceding air superiority and reducing their effectiveness in supporting ground operations. When discussing Western fighters for Ukraine, the conversation is often dominated by the American F-16 fighting Falcon. This is understandable, given the thousands produced and its service in numerous NATO air forces. However, comparing the F-16 to the Gripen reveals crucial differences that are highly relevant to the Ukrainian context. Both are capable multi-role fighters, but they come from very different design philosophies. The F-16 was designed as a relatively low-cost, high-performance workhorse for a large, well-funded air force operating from established, secure air bases. It's fantastic, but it demands a large logistical and maintenance footprint. The Gripen, by contrast, was designed for a smaller nation to fight a defensive war on home turf. That produced qualities crucial for Ukraine. The most significant of these is runway independence. The F-16 requires long, pristine runways. Its low-slung intake is susceptible to ingesting foreign object debris, which can severely damage the engine. Ukraine's air bases are often targeted and damaged. Dispersal to secondary airfields or highways is a key survival tactic. Gripen's high-mounted air intake, Gripen's robust landing gear, Gripen's short takeoff and landing capability make it far better suited for dispersed operations. Another key difference lies in maintenance and support. The F-16, while reliable, requires a substantial team of highly trained specialists and a significant logistical tail to keep it flying. The Gripen was explicitly designed for ease of maintenance. It has fewer components, requires fewer specialized tools, and can be turned around for a new mission, refueled and rearmed by a small, minimally trained crew in a fraction of the time it takes for an F-16. In a war with scarce skilled personnel and threatened logistics, that lower support need is a massive strategic advantage, enabling higher sortie rates with fewer resources. Both jets can carry Western weapons, but Gripen's native integration of systems like the Meteor missile gives it an edge. While the F-16 can be adapted, the Gripen was built around those weapons with radar systems optimized and data link systems optimized, giving Ukrainian Gripen pilots a more seamless, effective platform for air superiority. The F-16 is a valuable asset, but the Gripen offers solutions tailor-made for the brutal realities of war in Ukraine. The Gripen's effectiveness stems from its core design principle. It was built to fight and survive against a technologically advanced, numerically superior Soviet-style adversary. This is not a hypothetical scenario. It is its entire reason for being. Its primary advantage lies in survivability, electronic warfare, and situational awareness over raw speed or armor. Russian air defense networks, like the formidable S-400, rely on a web of powerful surveillance and engagement radars. The Gripen's internal EW suite is designed to attack that network directly, blinding and confusing the very sensors Russia depends on. This electronic combat capability is not just defensive. The Gripen can act as a silent hunter. Flying low and using passive sensors to detect radar emissions, it can pinpoint a Russian S-400 battery. Using its secure data link, it transmits precise targeting info to another aircraft, a HIMARS rocket battery, a long-range drone, to destroy the threat. That ability would be a game-changer, punching holes in Russia's A2/AD bubble and opening the skies for Ukrainian operations. In air-to-air combat, Gripen's AESA radar, its data link and long-range missiles like the Meteor form a lethal combo. Russia's Su-35 fighters, armed with R-37M missiles, have used long-range engagement. The Gripen-Meteor combination flips that script. The Meteor's ramjet propulsion keeps energy and maneuverability at extreme ranges better than Russian missiles, so a Gripen pilot can fire from further away with a higher probability of a kill. Cost-wise, the Gripen wins. Lower operational cost per flight hour than Su-35S and many Western jets. One Gripen costs about $60, $70 million. A single S-400 costs several hundred million. The strategic logic is clear. Risk a Gripen to destroy a far pricier cornerstone defense system. Ukraine would take that trade every day, against the persistence of Russian surveillance and strike capabilities, putting immense pressure on Ukraine's dispersal strategy. In the air, Russian pilots will be forced to change their tactics. The no-escape zone of the Meteor missile will make them far more wary of venturing deep into Ukrainian-controlled airspace. We can expect to see Russian fighter patrols pulled back, operating closer to the front lines under the protective umbrella of their own ground-based air defenses. they may attempt to use their own aircraft in bait and switch tactics, using some jets as bait, ambushes set by other fighters, S-400 surface-to-air missile batteries. The air war will become even more tense and calculated, with pilots on both sides operating at the extreme edges of their missiles' range. Technologically, Russia will work to counter the Gripen's electronic warfare suite. This means attempting to upgrade the software on their radar systems, to filter out the Gripen's jamming signals, better distinguish between real and false targets. They will also likely deploy more of their own dedicated EW aircraft, Ilyushin Il-22PP, in an attempt to jam the Gripen's data link and radar systems. This will lead to a complex and unseen battle in the electromagnetic spectrum, a duel of signals and processors that will be just as critical as the physical dogfights. Russia's ability to innovate and adapt in this electronic domain will be a key factor in determining the Gripen's long-term effectiveness. The introduction of the Gripen, even in modest numbers, will have implications that ripple far beyond individual air-to-air engagements. It will fundamentally reshape the dynamics of the air war, and by extension, the conflict on the ground. For over 2 years, the Ukrainian Air Force has been forced into a largely defensive posture, primarily focused on intercepting cruise missiles and drones, and conducting limited, high-risk strike missions near the front line. The Gripen, with its survivability and offensive punch, would empower Ukraine to finally go on the offensive in the air, actively seeking out and destroying high-value Russian targets. This shift from a defensive to an offensive air posture would have immediate tactical benefits. Gripens tasked with suppression of enemy air defenses could create temporary corridors free from the threat of Russian S-400 systems. Through these corridors, other Ukrainian aircraft such as Su-24S carrying Storm Shadow or Scalp cruise missiles could penetrate deeper into occupied territory to strike critical Russian command centers, logistics hubs, and ammunition dumps. The Gripen therefore acts not just as a fighter, but as a key that can unlock the full potential of Ukraine's other long-range strike assets, amplifying their impact on the battlefield. The presence of a credible air-to-air threat like the Gripen would also force a reallocation of Russian resources. Moscow would have to deploy more of its most advanced fighters, Su-35, Su-57, to the Ukrainian theater to counter them. It would also need to increase the number of airborne warning and control system aircraft, like the A-50U, to provide better radar coverage for its fighters. These high-value assets are limited in number and are also needed to defend Russia's vast airspace elsewhere. Forcing Russia to concentrate these precious resources in Ukraine would create vulnerabilities in other regions and put those assets at greater risk of being targeted themselves. For NATO, the deployment of the Gripen to Ukraine serves as a real-world test case for modern air warfare doctrine. The lessons learned about the effectiveness of electronic warfare, dispersed operations, and specific weapon systems will be invaluable for the alliance. It will inform future procurement decisions, tactical development, and training for all NATO air forces. In essence, the skies over Ukraine will become a laboratory for the future of air combat, with the Gripen as a central part of the experiment. So we arrive at the ultimate question. Could the Saab Gripen be a game-changer? Could it tip the balance of power in Ukraine? The term game-changer is often overused, so we must be realistic. A single squadron won't by itself win the war. The conflict is vast and complex. Artillery, manpower, economic endurance. The Gripen is not a silver bullet, but dismissing it would be a mistake. The Gripen is a system of systems. Its value is as a powerful force multiplier, making the Ukrainian military more effective. Its ability to challenge Russia's air defense network is perhaps its most significant contribution. By degrading S-400 effectiveness, it reduces the threat to other Ukrainian assets: low-flying attack jets, helicopters, long-range strike missiles, reconnaissance drones, that lets Ukraine contest airspace over the front lines and even deep in occupied territory, which enables more effective ground operations. It levels the playing field in the air, takes away a major Russian strategic advantage, and forces Russia onto the back foot. What comes next will be intense adaptation. As Gripens become operational, expect escalation in electronic warfare and a deadly hunt for the jets on the ground. Russia will spare no expense to neutralize the threat, to mitigate tactical impact, and to score propaganda wins. Success depends on Ukrainian skill and ingenuity. pilots, ground crews, and the aircraft technology itself. Master its systems, exploit its strengths, and protect it on the ground. These will be paramount. In conclusion, the Gripen alone won't win the war, but it can be a pivotal capability for Ukraine. It answers some of Kiev's toughest air war problems, threatening Russian air defenses, winning air-to-air battles with superior missiles, and surviving through smarts and efficiency. Wielded correctly, it could punch a hole in Russian air superiority, create new opportunities for Ukrainian forces, and bring Kiev a step closer to deciding its future. The Kremlin's anxiety is therefore justified.